got so motherfucking design on right now. Bring it down, make it clap. I got 3 old thoughts on the block.
All right, buckle up, because today we're diving headfirst into a world most of us only get glimpses of.
Yeah, it's a bit of a shadowy one.
The world of high-stakes PR where, let's be honest, truth can be a little, flexible.
Malleable.
Malleable, that's the word.
Sometimes unrecognizable.
And perception is everything. Our guide,
Oh, this should be good.
Phil Elwood, and his explosive memoir, All the Worst Humans. This guy, he wasn't just some publicist, he was the fixer. Dictators, tycoons, anyone who needed their image, shall we say, polished,
Airbrushed, maybe?
sanitized.
Oh, he did more than airbrushing. Elwood's claiming involvement in everything from, like, billion-dollar deals to, get this, Qatar's World Cup win.
Wait, seriously?
Seriously, we're not just talking celebrity gossip here. This is about how narratives get built and how all of us, you listening right now, could be more influenced than we realize.
It's a bit unnerving when you think about it. All the machinery behind the news we see, the stories we believe. Exactly. Elwood's pulling back the curtain on how a select few can basically game the system to their advantage, whether it's true or ethical or not.
And that's the key, isn't it? Truth and ethics kind of take a backseat in this world.
Okay, so let's unpack this. Elwood calls himself a PR fixer, but what does that even mean? What does this job look like on a day-to-day basis?
Think of it this way, like a puppet master of public opinion. It's not just managing someone's reputation. It's actively shaping it.
Okay, I'm listening.
Burying bad stories,
Yeah.
highlighting the good ones, controlling the narrative.
Elwood's book is full of examples, right? Like sabotaging rivals for huge contracts, covering up political scandals.
Oh yeah, some wild stuff in there.
The lengths he went to, it's hard to believe.
It's high stakes, no doubt.
But what's interesting is, the psychology of it all. Elwood tries to justify his actions, saying everyone in his world operates this way, like it's some moral code of, the corrupt
It's almost like a warped sense of normalcy.
and necessary evil. Is that what he's arguing?
Yeah, exactly. It's this world where morality takes a backseat to getting results. Everyone has a price. That's the message. But it does raise a big question, doesn't it?
Oh, absolutely. If everyone's doing it, does that make it okay?
Right. Does operating within a system like that really absolve you of personal responsibility?
Reading his account, though, you get the sense that Elwood's wrestling with these questions.
There's definitely a tension there.
Like, he tries to justify it all, but there's these hints of regret, too. Like, he knows he crossed some lines.
And he's trying to convince himself as much as the reader.
Exactly. So let's dig into the specifics. How did these fixers, Elwood included, actually pull off this level of manipulation? What were their tools, their tricks?
One big one is timing. Understanding the media cycle. It's all about knowing when to leak information, sometimes even, made up information, to create the right kind of buzz.
So it's not just reacting to the news cycle, it's about actually creating it.
Absolutely. They know how to grab headlines. A well-timed leak, a manufactured controversy.
Oh, that's devious.
It can totally shift public opinion. Bury the truth. Elwood brags about building whole campaigns just to change how people view a topic, a person, anything.
So it's like constructing an alternate reality and everyone just buys into it.
Sadly, that's often how it works. And it's not just traditional media anymore either. Think about social media. All those viral campaigns.
Are you saying those aren't always real?
Let's just say Elwood reveals some tactics, astroturfing he calls it, that make it look like there's massive grassroots support for something. When really,
It's all fake.
let's just say it's manufactured.
Yeah.
Highly effective at shaping opinions, that's for sure.
So how much of what we see online, even in our news feeds, is actually genuine? It's scary to think about.
And that's Elwood's point. These techniques, they aren't just for dictators and billionaires anymore. They're everywhere. Corporations use them, politicians, even everyday people might be spreading manipulated narratives without even knowing it.
This is bigger than just PR then, isn't it? It's about power, how information is used in every part of our lives. But before we get too deep into that, let's look closer at how Elwood himself operated.
Oh, he goes into detail about it all in the book. Planting stories with journalists, using his connections with politicians, even manipulating financial markets to help his clients.
Wow, that's a whole other level.
It's a wild ride, that's for sure. But it's fascinating to see the mechanics of it all, how it actually worked.
It's wild, right?
Yeah.
He describes these crazy schemes, but then he also tries to, humanize himself?
Yeah, you see glimpses of him struggling with it all.
He talks about the toll this life took on him, his relationships. Like, was there any part of him that felt bad?
There's definitely this tension in the book between the cold, calculating manipulator and the guy who maybe has a conscience after all.
He even tells this story, I think it was about helping a teacher who was falsely accused of something.
Oh yeah, that one was interesting.
Totally out of character for the Elwood we thought we knew.
Yeah, it makes you wonder what his motivation was there.
Maybe he needed to prove something to himself or to us that he wasn't a complete monster.
It's a complicated picture, psychologically speaking. Was it about balancing the scales,
Yeah.
doing something good to make up for all the bad? But it also brings up the question, can someone like that, someone who did all those shady things, ever really be redeemed?
Is he trying to rewrite his own story? Not just for us, but maybe for himself too.
Possibly. It's definitely a layer to consider.
But let's zoom out a bit, think bigger picture. What do Elwood's revelations tell us about, well, the world we live in now?
I think it really highlights how fragile truth is, especially in the age of information overload.
If a guy like Elwood can twist narratives so easily, how are we supposed to know what's real anymore?
Right? We're bombarded with information from every direction. It's hard to know what to trust.
Exactly. And with social media, the news cycle is constant. Everything moves so fast.
It creates this perfect environment for manipulation because it's hard to keep up, to check everything.
So what can we do about it? How do we become better, smarter consumers of information, in this age of spin?
Awareness is a big one. We need to be aware of our own biases, what we're inclined to believe already.
Because if we're not careful, we'll just gravitate towards what confirms our existing views.
Correctly. And then we're more easily manipulated.
So it's about challenging ourselves, our assumptions.
All the time. Don't take anything at face value, especially if it fits neatly into your worldview.
Don't be afraid to dig deeper.
Look for evidence.
Yeah.
Consider other points of view.
Like, we all need to become information detectives.
Exactly. And fact check. There are so many resources out there now to help us sort fact from fiction. Websites like Snopes, PolitiFact.
Okay, those are good to know. But still, it feels like an uphill battle, right? Like one person against these huge PR machines.
Well, we need to push for more transparency. Hold those in power accountable for the information they're putting out.
Stronger regulations, maybe.
On lobbying, campaign financing, even those algorithms that control what we see on social media. All of it.
And maybe we need more people like Elwood. People willing to speak out, blow the whistle, even when it's risky.
Whistleblowers are vital. And it starts with us, supporting them, making sure they feel safe to come forward.
Elwood's book, it's definitely started a conversation about the ethics of PR, the need for more honesty, more openness. But I still wonder about his motives,
Yeah, it's hard to tell.
He talks about regret, his conscience. But is it real, or is it just another PR move?
It's tough to say for sure. Maybe it's both.
Like, he feels conflicted, but also sees an opportunity to control the narrative, his narrative.
Right. He's not just confessing, he's managing the confession. It's a fascinating paradox.
The master manipulator trying to manipulate how we see him. But what's the goal? What does he gain from all this exposure?
It could be about legacy. He knows he did some bad stuff, but now he gets to be the one who exposed the system.
He goes from villain to what, like a folk hero?
Maybe something like that. Trying to control how he'll be remembered.
But there are parts of the book where it feels like his regret is real.
Yeah, he does admit to causing harm, making bad choices.
It's so hard to separate the truth from the spin with this guy.
Right. That's the complexity of Elwood. Where does the manipulation end and the real self-reflection begin? It's a question without an easy answer.
Maybe we'll never truly know what his motives were, but his memoir definitely makes you think, doesn't it?
Oh, absolutely.
About the power of narratives, how they can be used, twisted to serve someone's agenda.
It's a powerful reminder of how important media literacy is these days. We can't just take everything we see and hear at face value.
We have to be critical, analyze things, look at things from different angles before we decide what we believe. It's a lot to process, right? Elwood, his book, everything we've talked about.
Oh, for sure. It makes you think about the world a little differently.
And as we wrap up, this whole deep dive into all the worst humans, I keep coming back to this question of motive. Why? Why write this book? Why put himself out there like that?
Yeah, it's a big risk.
Yeah.
I mean, he could have just disappeared, enjoyed all that ill-gotten gain, right?
Exactly. But he chose to step into the spotlight, reveal all these secrets, and basically admit to doing some pretty shady stuff.
He's risking lawsuits, alienating powerful people, He could destroy his own reputation.
It almost feels like he's trying to self-destruct.
It's ironic, isn't it? The guy who spent his life controlling the narrative is now maybe at the mercy of it.
Do you think it's possible this is all another manipulation, like
Right.
one final PR stunt?
I mean, he's good at it, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Maybe this book is his way of controlling the narrative one last time.
So he's not just confessing, he's managing the confession. But what would be the point? What's the end game here?
Legacy, maybe. He knows he did some bad things, but now he gets to be the one who exposed the system.
So instead of being the villain, he becomes the hero? The whistleblower?
Something like that. He gets to control how history remembers him.
But there are parts of the book where his regret does seem genuine. He talks about the harm he caused, the choices he made.
Yeah, there are moments where it feels real, like he's really wrestling with his conscience.
It's hard to know what to believe with this guy.
Right. Is it manipulation? Is it genuine remorse? Or is it both? I don't think there's an easy answer.
Maybe we'll never know his true motivations. But the book, it definitely serves as a warning, doesn't it?
Oh, absolutely. About the power of narratives. How easily they can be used to manipulate and deceive.
It's a reminder that we can't just accept everything we see and hear as truth.
We need to be critical thinkers. Media literacy, it's more important now than ever.
We can't just be passive consumers of information. We have to engage with it, question it, analyze it.
And we need to demand better. From our institutions, from our leaders, from the media. We deserve transparency.
So if you're listening to this, do yourself a favor, read All the Worst Humans. It's a tough read, but it's worth it.
It really opens your eyes to the forces at play in our world. And it reminds us that we all have a part to play in fighting against manipulation.
We have to be more discerning, more critical, more engaged. That's how we protect ourselves. That's how we protect the truth. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. I'll see you next time.